Alright, I think I have that recording. And I have this one recording too, so I think we can start. Oh, I had to write the questions down. I don't happen to be an experienced interviewer who can recall all the questions from my head, but hopefully
that's okay.
All of them will seem to be reasonable software, given the amount of interviews you have had over time.
That's
But
okay.
All right. So I'll just do a weird introduction.
No, that's okay.
I'm trying to look at my audience here and everything. But thank you everyone for joining. Today here I have Justin, who is the CEO of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, which was the best performing stock exchange in Southern Africa last year, actually in Sub-Saharan Africa, not only in Southern Africa, but in Sub-Saharan Africa in USD and local currency terms. He went to school to the University of South Africa, where he has a Bachelor of Accounting Science, Victoria University of Wellington in New Zealand, where he has a Master's in Applied Finance. It seems like a very learned guy, and we'll figure out today. He has worked at the prestigious McKinsey, the prestigious consulting firm McKinsey, where I failed to get into after a couple of interviews. So it's something that I applaud him for, to do that. And then, of course, he was the CFO at the New Zealand Stock Exchange. He came back home, returned home, took over as the CEO of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, a job which he started on 13 March 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, almost 3 years now.
Yes, so interesting. So just a first question here. You are in New Zealand, and I imagine someone calls you up and says, there's a job back home. Was it a quick yes, I'll come, or was it like, no, I'll think about it and I'll come back to you?
It was, I thought about it. And I always tell that the reason why I took the job was the 75-year-old test. So when you are 75, would you regret not doing this? And I thought to myself, I'm 75, I thought I would regret doing this. The thing about it, when you are in diaspora, you always complain how things don't work in Zimbabwe. But yeah, if you can make a difference, then you should come and see exactly why things don't work or what you can do to make things work. I think that's the reason why I came back. Yeah, it took a bit of time.
Interesting. So can you tell us just two major things that you have changed here since this date in March 2019, and any major changes that you have made to the stock exchange?
I think the big one is definitely the launch of the Victoria Stock Exchange. So the Victoria Stock Exchange is a US hard currency exchange in Victoria Falls, and we see that they started some things that were not happening on the exchange. So one of the things that when you came on ZSE was there was no new listings at all. There was nothing new that was happening. New people were not coming. In fact, the trend was going downwards. And we felt that the Victoria Stock Exchange started a trend of people wanting to come to list. And also, that also has a ripple effect on ZSE as well, because suddenly now you're getting listings on ZSE when you're not. So I think that's the first one that we're proud of. Then I think the second one, I think, is in terms of just the general improvement in the confidence and the perception about ZSE. I think we are better perceived now as being dynamic rather than this institution that does nothing new, that just stays there and just explodes around. So I think those two are the main things.
Interesting. You tweeted on January 14, 2022. Sorry, I wasn't strong. I just saw the tweet. You said liquidity is value. So if you are going to be giving advice to a young investor who is just starting out, what percentage of their net worth do you think they should keep in liquid cash so that they can deploy when opportunities arise?
Yeah, I think it doesn't have to be cash given the currency risk that you have in Africa.
Right.
That's why an exchange is good, because the exchange is almost as good as cash.
Okay.
So in exchange, I mean, like let's say our exchange, you get your money after 3 days. It's something that we're waiting. But on our platform, on ZSE Direct, you get it on the same day. But so you can almost treat shares as almost as cash, because you also want something that preserves value as well. So I always say, as young people, if you're young, start building your share portfolio. Right. Yeah. And if you don't know what to do, that's the advantage of an ETF, an exchange traded fund. Because one of the things that I always found interesting when we're trying to get people to more invest on the market, they'll tell you that I put my money in this share that is long lived the exchange. So people just don't look after their share portfolio. That's why I like exchange traded funds. If it's a top 10 exchange traded fund, it remains top 10. If the company stops performing, it drops out of the top 10 and something else replaces it. So automatically you are reinvesting in another company. So you do not have to be clever. Top 10 normally are top 10 good companies and remains as top 10. So I just believe that you have a portfolio. And if you don't know what to do, start with the ETF.
With the ETFs.
And that helps you.
That's interesting. I'm sure we'll talk more about ETFs. But 153% is how much the market that you are running went up in USD terms last year, which is a phenomenal figure by any chance. I think coming only second to maybe AMC or Bitcoin or something up there. Do you and your team, sort of pat yourself at the back, or do you think that there is something that you could have done better to even equal records that?
So in general, we do not comment and we do not say we like the exchange to go up by this amount.
But do you feel good when the market goes up?
I feel good because it means our people that are trusting us with their money are making money, but we never go and say we want the market to go up by this amount. What we try to do is we try to create a conducive environment that helps the market to do well. So we make sure that we are attracting the best companies. We make sure that the companies are producing financials so people know how the companies are performing. Then also we make it easy for people to invest. Okay. So for us, what we do is we create the environment. And we hope everything takes care of itself, but we can't put ourselves and say, it's us who did the 150,000. Now we don't. It's a market up and down. Okay. But what we can do is attract quality assets, make it easy for people to invest, and make sure people have got information. That's all we can do.
So it seems to me that you're saying there were quality assets and people were informed. This is why the market went up. But other pundits have said that, well, this is not really a good job being done by Justin and his team. What is simply happening is that people are running away from inflation and putting all their money in the market. Do you agree with this view, or you think that it's not entirely true to say people are using the market to hedge inflation?
But people are hedging because there is quality assets there.
Right.
People who don't hedge their money where there's no quality assets. That's the first argument. Then secondly, if you look at the performance of the listed companies themselves, they've done well. Right. I won't mention names, but if you analyze the listed companies, how they have performed very well. And also would like to think that because of what we do, how we manage the exchange, people trust our platform. People trust that if you put money there, things are done properly. There is no funny business happening, that's why I can put my money there. So we don't take credit, some things we take credit for, some things we don't. At the end of the day, the general economy decides how people are going to invest. There's no doubt about it. But your platform has to be there. And it has to be trusted. And it has to have quality assets.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Talking of the readiness of the platform that you run, suppose that I'm an operative of the South African government, and I really hate that people have all been investing in Zimbabwe because there are massive returns there. And I wanted to figure out a way to really get back at you as a competitor exchange working for the ZSE on behalf of the South African government. And I wanted to hack the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. How easy or difficult is it? What are you doing in terms of cybersecurity?
It reminds me of the sophisticated exchanges like New Zealand Stock Exchange. They had an attack. So they have more resources than what we have. So really to say that you're foolproof in terms of cyber, you'll be lying. Right. So we do what we can in terms of our resources and use the latest technology. But the truth of the matter is, if someone who is very powerful wants to go after you, very few people in the world get survive. Very few. And more importantly, an exchange like us. So we do things that we can to minimize it. But I can't say we're foolproof.
But ever since you started this job, you have never called the CIO to say we're in trouble, please help us? No.
Touch wood now.
Okay, interesting.
Touch wood. We always think that we're too small to be attractive to people. That's what we hope.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, talking of technology, how is trading actually conducted on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and the Victoria Stock Exchange? Is it some bunch of men and women shouting in a pit like we see in the movies, or is it just a bunch of professionals sitting behind their screens and doing some electronic stuff?
Everything is electronic. So so we have a continuous session between 9 and 1 now, and you are remotely away from the exchange. You could be anywhere in the world, but most people are in Zimbabwe, and that's how they trade.
Okay.
So we seldom see our brokers. We can spend the whole year without seeing our brokers. And even ZSE itself, at the height of COVID, there was a time when there was no one here. Everyone was at home, and we were running the exchange at home. Yeah, we sometimes say we don't admit it, but we really don't need the buildings. We could run the exchange from home. There is nothing that stops us, but you couldn't do that. The perception.
Very interesting. I just was of the idea that you saw the brokers more often. I haven't seen my broker since last year. I really hope they're still open. But
no, we don't.
As long as my custodian has the assets, there shouldn't be a problem.
No, everything's electronic. Okay. Or completely electronic.
Interesting. So if I'm a value investor and I wanted data from, say, January 1, 1998, this is the date when Econet Wireless was listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange.
Okay.
Can I get this data of the share price and everything from 1998, and how much does it cost?
Okay, so I don't have the price with me, but you can get the data from us. So if you go on our website or send an email, right, you can ask for the information. Okay. So and we send it to you. So we have all that information. Yeah, we have the information.
Interesting. That's good. So in September last year, you added what is known as the Odd Lot Bot to the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange Direct, the app that you guys are running. Can you explain the benefits to retail investors, especially young people who might not have a lot of money, for what this Odd Lot Bot does to them?
Okay. So if the main board, I have to do it in 100, lots of 100, right? So, but what if it's below 100? You want to donate 100. So let's take BAT for example. Last time I checked, BAT was like $1,000 a share. Right. So 100 shares is 100,000, right. Which means that BAT then is out for most people. So the odd lot helps in that regard, because I'm using that's the extreme, but I'm using BAT as an extreme. It means you can buy one share of BAT, and it's worth $1,000. Okay. So that opens up BAT to young people where it was never available. That's why you do the odd lot board. And and it tends to be separate from the main board, and it doesn't determine the price. So the price is still determined on the main board, but you can do trades in the odd lot. Okay. But it doesn't affect the price of the share.
Interestingly here, sort of as part of this financial inclusion drive, it seems to me that, well, the solution could be this, which is an odd lot board, but at a certain point, maybe BAT might be 10,000 for one share. Are there any, I understand there could be regulations to cap the floor, to say a share should at least be this price to be listed, but is there something on the cap to say, no, BAT, look, you're now just for bingas, you gotta include the young people. Can you engage BAT to say, can they do a stock split under your direction or something?
No, we cannot, we don't try to do, they are listed, they got their own shareholders and everything. You always hope that they will come to the conclusion that we want to attract more investors, and therefore let's make our share, split our share price. But we can't do that. But what we can do is we encourage people. We are hoping that someone will unitize it. Right. So always hoping we say someone is clever enough to say, okay, BAT is now with $100,000. Why don't I unitize BAT? So we always hope that someone will come up, because you can do that. You can unitize it. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. It's your hope. I hope the hope will pay off. So if some retail investor like me has products that they would wish were there on the market, and wanted to reach your team or you in specific, what's the best way to reach you guys as the exchange?
So we do monitor very much our info at ZSE to see what the setup is. It's one of the we really monitor. So if you send something there, that will work. Or even you can send it direct to me if it's CEO at ZSE to see what it will come to me. Okay. So if you go to, I'll pick it up.
Interesting. You promised to read all our emails.
I
All right. So interestingly, now you have opened up. You have done a lot of initiatives to open up equities to retail investors. But now it seems like we've seen you can deliver since you've been on this job, and now we want more. And by more, I mean real estate. When are we going to have the REITs on the market? We really want them. We want the property sector and to have those monthly dividends.
Okay, so I'll tell you about the challenge that we had with the REITs to start with. No matter what you do to kickstart the REITs market, Zimbabwe is always tricky, but that's Zimbabwe. So what you normally do with REITs to kickstart the market is, so you want people to move into the REITs. They've got properties now to move into REITs. So the government rightfully did not want to lose its tax base.
Right.
So they denied that chance of existing people that are property holders that are paying tax to move into REITs. In some countries, what you do is you get once-off tax, like 2 or 5% once-off tax, and once you pay the once-off tax, you can put it. But the government flat out said no.
Right.
And they said no, REITs must be to new buildings.
Okay.
So that means there's that delay that most of the existing stock can't come into the REITs. The one that can come in are mainly pension funds. So the pension fund industry was the one that we're hoping very much to come in. So what you have is in Zimbabwe is you have pension funds that are asset rich. So these old pension funds, I won't mention names, that have been around for a long time.
Right.
So the law allows pension funds to bring REITs.
Okay.
So there are few pension funds that we are talking to who are close to come in. Then you've got these pension funds which are new, that have got a lot of cash. So hoping that if they bring REITs in, we can match those ones and come onto the market. So we are close. There are 2 or 3 that we are talking to that are close.
Interestingly, it seems to me that you are the one who is having to sort of encourage these guys to come in and list REITs. On one side you want it, on the other side I also think Professor Mtuli wants it because he has been tweeting about it and talking about it. I understand it's a free market and nobody can force these guys to come in, but what are the reasons they're mentioning for them to drag their feet as pension funds?
So I think the first thing is just knowledge. So we're running a REIT seminar sometime next month. It's knowledge. This is entirely new, right? REITs industry is new. People understand what is REITs, how does it work. Not just the people that own the buildings, but even the professionals around it, the sponsors, the custodians, the trustees. This is new. I mean, we saw the same thing with ETFs. It took us a while to do the first ETF.
Right.
We are now we're about to launch the 3rd ETF. We think by end of the year will be 4 or 5. So you saw, it took a long time to get the first ETF. You get the first ETF shortened, then you get an ETF. We believe that's the same thing that's going to happen with the REITs. You will struggle to get the first one, then the second one to be closer, and you get REITs. That's why you have to work hard with someone, 1 or 2 people, to bring it across to the market. Then people see the benefits, see how it works. Then it just becomes easier. Because now, if someone has done an ETF, for example, people just go into the people that launched the first ETF and say, how can we do it? So it was easier. But the people who did the first one, the trustees and everything, it was more difficult. So that's the model. It's new. It's never happened before.
Coming to inclusion now, do we have a percentage that you can share with us of the percentage of retail investors who are women, and are there any initiatives that you are doing within the market to just not only bring in retail investors per se, but to sort of like have some women inclusion in finance?
Okay, so there's been, I won't take credit for this. There's a lady, I don't want to mention her name because she might didn't get her permission, but there's a lady that was big on Twitter who has done quite a lot in terms of women. She's done women groups and everything. It was not up to us, but just in that way. We've never had a target. Our problem has been that just generally it's been low. It's been low, just generally. We've been working more broadly to bring it across and hope that women comes along as well. But just generally, the people that invest on the stock market is still low.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still low.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Still on inclusion again.
Yeah.
The ZSE director has made it easy for retail investors to come into the market and to invest. But there are still some requirements that people grumble with, proof of residence, bank account, which some people, especially the young people, it might not be easy. I mean, of course, it's just a bit of bureaucracy for you to go to Commissioner of Odds and get this certified that you actually live in Nyanga and in a village in Tanzania where I come from. It just might take long. Maybe the village admin is not one of your biggest fans and refuses to write you a letter. And people will want probably some of these requirements to be dropped. Is there anything that's in the process for you to sort of lessen the KYC requirements for people to start investing on the market?
All right. So the challenge that you are having is it's a market that is servicing very sophisticated individuals and companies and less sophisticated as well. So, but unfortunately, you would know there's a lot more in the formal financial sector to do more and more KYC.
Right.
Zimbabwe was the problem that they were on the grey list, and when I mentioned we're not on the grey list. So all these requirements are part of not just Zimbabwe, but international. That you have to not just know your customer, but your customer's customer. I mean, there's much more pressure. So if Zimbabwe has to be part of the worldwide financial system, you have to do this. And the exchange has to be part of this. So we have to do this. So it's one of those things. So I think the question becomes, how do we make it easier for people to get proof of address and everything? It's probably something that we need to talk to the authorities. But we can't limit the KYC because it's part of a wider thing that is beyond just Zimbabwe.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's part of that. Yeah.
Talking of money laundering, is there a limit as a retail investor of how much I can invest? I mean, like, if you see that I opened in ZSE Direct today and I'm putting in an equivalent of $1 million per day for the next 30 days, are you going to call me up, or you're just going to say, we welcome your money?
We'll call you up and say, where but first of all, I mean, when you do is you do say where your source of money is.
Right.
So we can ask you to say, how are you getting the money? Yes, we'll call you up.
Interesting. I've seen, I think, on when I was signing up for my broker a couple of years ago, there was a specific requirement for you to tick if you're in the transport business. Do we have extra requirements? If I have 30 buses that are bringing me $100 per bus every day, and I'm putting all this money in the market, is there extra due diligence for people?
I'm not sure why the
okay, that's broker
specific. Yeah, I think probably because the deposit cash, but I would be lying. I'm not sure now.
If I'm a startup, let's say I'm a startup and I think my company is slowly almost becoming a unicorn, which is a company that's $1 billion in Zimbabwean dollars. Hopefully, if I start, I don't want to be very over ambitious here.
Okay.
Can you state briefly what I need for me to be listed?
Okay. All right. So there's professionals that we work with. We work in the market, brokers, we call sponsors. So the best thing to do is to approach a sponsor. You can list the list is on our website,
right,
and go to them and say, this is what I want to do, this is on a list, and they work with you on the requirements. The truth of the matter is what actually happens practically now is people approach the exchange directly.
Right.
So we see more and more of that happening, and we're okay with it. We've got no problem with it. And we work with you, we explain to you, these are the requirements, this is what you need to do, and then we tell you to say, look, and we think that there's something there, we then give you a list of brokers.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I found that fascinating in Zimbabwe.
So these sponsors are almost like investment banks that should run the roadshow for you and rile up people to say you should buy this is the best company that has ever happened. They do all that,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the motto that we have.
Okay.
That's the motto that we have. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Is there a reason then why companies seem to be shying away from being public, and we have not had a bunch of public companies coming?
Yeah. So we know that the main reason why people has been the issue of stability of the currency. So we know that what people are saying is that, look, for most of the time when people come and raise money, they want to buy equipment and everything. Most of the time they want hard currency.
Right. So
if you come on ZSE and you raise the money, then you get $10, and then maybe you have to go to the queue or the auction to get. So that tends to be the problem, the currency issue. Hence the reason why we did the Victoria Stock Exchange.
Right.
We feel that the Victoria Stock Exchange is going to be better in that terms, especially if you're an exporter. To say you can come and you raise money in the currency that you want. That is it. And we believe that as the currency stabilizes, we tend to see stages where when currency stabilizes, you get more inquiries for people wanting to list on ZSE.
Right.
Then unfortunately sometimes then the currency doesn't stabilize and those people go away. But as soon as stability, you get people wanting to list. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining at the Victoria Stock Exchange, you are trying to harvest money that, there's a term that I heard last week while listening to the president of Zimbabwe Economic Society, Mr. Chanakira, speaking, and he said there's something called the National Mattress Bank, where people are keeping their US dollars, whether in their sofas or in their mattresses. Is this what you're trying to target? This money that might have been coming in as remittances and people really don't know how to invest their US dollars, and you want them to take it to Victoria Stock Exchange?
I think there are three types of money that we're looking for. So the first one is that there are large institutions and pension funds. So for example, short-term insurance now, there's a lot of payment that's been done in US dollars. Same with medical. So there's more now institutions that are actually collecting US dollars that is going to look for a home. So that's one. And dividends, like Africa Zimbabwe paid a lot of dividends in US dollars, and those are looking for a home. So that's the first lot. Then the second lot is money that is outside the country, Zimbabweans and everything that we want to invest. Then the third is the mattress one. So for us, the mattress one is not to start with. It's not the biggest bucket to start with. For us, is if we can unlock, for example, diaspora. And have Zimbabweans. We know Zimbabweans love their country. I mean, diaspora. Yes. You love your country. Yes. If you could do something, we know if you could do a product that unlocks diaspora, for example, we could get a lot of investment. So for us, that's more what we are looking for. The former one tends to be better for us than the informal one. The former one, I think we'll get there, but I think that's
the former one.
The former one first.
Interesting. So if I'm a teacher at a rural primary school in Nyanga district where I come from, and I want to really explain to my grade 7 students this whole idea of financial literacy and sort of catch them young. Is there anything that as the exchange you can do to help me? Can you come to my school? Can I come with my students here or something?
Yeah, it's interesting. You forced me to break the news. Break the news. So,
well, at least we have a breaking news alert.
So in March we are going to go to Manicaland. So we're gonna do a Manicaland, a roadshow in Manicaland, and we're gonna cover 3 things. So the first thing that we're gonna cover is we're gonna get schools to come. We're gonna start with secondary schools, where we're gonna explain to them what is an exchange, how you to invest on the stock exchange. So we're gonna do this in various regions, and we're gonna start with Manicaland, just one of those. And the second thing is there are some companies that we are targeting in Manicaland that could be thinking of listing. So we're gonna go to them and say, if you wanna list, these are the requirements and this is how you do it. So that's the second thing that we're gonna work on. Then thirdly, we have some clients that are listed in Manicaland. So obviously we have to visit them and talk to them. So this roadshow we're gonna start with Manicaland because so after Manicaland we'll do different. We're just gonna start with Manicaland.
I definitely feel very good about this. You know, as someone from Manicaland province, thank you so much for honoring us with the first position in your roadshows. Any listings that we can look forward to this year?
So we think that on VFX side, we're talking to a few mines and financial institutions. So we're bullish on VFX. We're bullish on, as I said, on ETFs, on ZSE, and semi-bullish on the REITs. We just need to get one and everything. There are 2 or 3 companies that are also thinking of listing that on the ZSE side. So I think overall, we think we're gonna have activity. So we did the first ETF beginning of the year. We've done Tananda. So as I said, we're expecting another ETF, if not this month, early next month. So at least I think in terms of activity, we think it's going to be a decent year. At least better than the other years, definitely.
Interesting. So foreign investors seem to have been hesitant about the ZSE for a long time. Among other reasons, they really hate that they have to join a line in the RBZ once they want to take out their capital gains or dividends. Is there anything as an exchange that you are doing to sort of improve sort of the mood of foreign investors and make sure that once they get out of the market, they can quickly check out their returns?
Okay, so there's something that I normally don't talk about, but I'll explain. The way the market is done at the moment is more geared towards a foreign investor leaving instead of coming.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll explain why. So if you think about it, it's all to do with the exchange rate. That's why in exchange rate, you have to have a stable exchange rate.
Right.
So if the parallel rate and the official are different. So because they're different, you tend to have your assets priced at the parallel rate. So if I'm a foreigner, I've got an asset that is priced at the parallel rate, and I can go out using the official rate again.
Yes, you do.
So if I'm a foreign investor, what would I be doing?
I'll be getting out. I'll be getting out at 150 or whatever the official is.
That's our problem. That's my challenge.
Interesting.
So any rationale for an investor is thinking of leaving, not the other way around. That's what it is.
Talking of foreigners in the outside world, I think it's fair to say that you have not just been a domestic policy CEO, but you have been a foreign policy one as well.
Okay.
You have been snapped really magnificent photos in countries like Kenya and Botswana and Dubai, where you were signing what many people would consider mega deals. What can we expect as Zimbabweans from these agreements? Are we going to be able to soon be buying securities from the Nairobi Securities Exchange or something like that? No?
So there's been 2 parts on it. So the part like Nairobi and everything, we're benchmarking.
Right.
So we went to Kenya because we always believe Kenya is some of the challenges that we have. I always tell our Kenyan brothers to say their election tend to be as violent as ours.
Right. People swear each other in the bush. Right?
But honestly, as not, our Kenyan brothers tend to be very nice to us. So we go there for benchmarking. Same with Botswana.
Right.
They tend to be. So we tend to that's important. So it's a benchmarking. Then the Dubai one is to launch a commodity exchange. Okay. So we're in the process of wanting to launch a commodity exchange on the Victoria Falls. Okay. So covering both spot and derivatives. So what we want to do is we want to have our minerals being sold on our exchange. So for example, chrome. You want to buy Zimbabwean chrome, you come to buy it on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. Okay. That's the reason why we went to Dubai. Our relationship that we have with DGCX is for technical support so that we can launch the commodity exchange. Yeah. So that is not something that we are actively working towards.
So these are not mega deals. These are just deals.
This is really something that we're actively working towards.
Okay.
Yeah, we've signed some agreements in Zimbabwe, and we are busy. No, this is something that we're working towards.
Interesting. So it's no secret that some people within the ruling establishment of this country have blamed the exchange for leading to many things, among them running away with the parallel rate or something like this. Do you sometimes meet with members of parliament or the executive to explain to them what the exchange does? And, do they understand this exchange in your view? And maybe do they ask for stock tips on what to buy?
So the way we always run our life is we always say that if there's things that are happening like that, it means we are not doing a good job in explaining ourselves, B, in terms of not showing why the stock exchange exists, and the third one in terms of us not helping solve their problems.
Right.
So that's why we always go back to the Victoria Stock Exchange. Victoria Stock Exchange is we are really trying to help solve their problems. So if you look at their problems, it's not better our problems because we are together as a country. So if you look at the Vision 2030, if you look at Vision 2030 and what the government is trying to do, what becomes very clear on the Vision 2030 is there is not enough funding for it. So you want the gold sector the mining sector to be $12 billion US. It has to be funded.
Right.
So where does the money come from? And in a lot of countries, for mining sector, the exchange makes sense.
Right.
And ZSE does not make sense in that regard because people are not coming to it.
Right.
That's why we went to the government with the VFX idea to say, no, look, do a hard currency exchange, offer incentives. That way you can have mining companies coming to list to raise money. So when you do things like that, where you're showing that an exchange can actually help you achieve your economic objectives, you tend to get more support for them. So our approach before had been one where we not divorced from policy. We try as much as possible now to influence policy by showing that, because capital markets are important. You know how important capital markets are. I mean, they help a country. Them not understanding it, I think some of the blame is ours. I remember, and it took me a while to understand, the CEO of Nairobi Securities Exchange, he explained to me, he says, you must do traditional products, but you must also do products that are specific to the problems in your country.
Yes.
That's how you show the relevance of an exchange. It is something that we're not good at, that we are hopefully we're getting better at it. That's why I like things like ZSE Direct. ZSE Direct allows ordinary people to be members of the and ordinary people are the people that vote.
Right.
So if ordinary people are enjoying the benefits of an exchange, that just helps with politicians. So those are some of the things that we think the more, because for them, if they look at closing exchange, for example, and they believe that just the elite are the ones that are on the stock exchange, there's no really blowback on them, is it?
Right.
No, there isn't.
But if the public rises up and says, you're locking my $500 in Econet and I want it, they will respond.
And say, look, I've been doing the exchange, and because of the exchange, I've made this amount of money.
And I want to pay fees.
Yes, that helps.
Interesting.
So unlike other people, we don't blame them, we blame ourselves and say we are not doing a good job enough to become relevant. And some of the things that is becoming important for us as an exchange, we want to be relevant.
Okay, interesting.
Be relevant, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And just to be specific though, no member of parliament has asked you, what do I buy? No.
And one of the things about me, if you ever ask me what to buy, I will never tell you. I know the secrets. There is I would never tell anyone what to buy.
Interesting. So because you find yourself in school, because
yes.
nobody
I am the ultimate insider. Right?
Interesting. Yeah. So given you're wearing a Victoria Stock Exchange shirt right now, you now have two children, Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, Victoria. How are you balancing, as a father for these two children? Are you favoring one and trying to prop up the one until they catch up with the other, or how are you balancing your time with the two exchanges?
Yeah, so we're on our way towards separating them. And so the long term is that they will be run separate exchanges. That's the long term. And it makes sense anyway, because it's going to be different audience and different targets and everything. So, but given that an exchange, it takes time for it to be truly profitable and stand alone, you kind of have to. Victoria Falls Stock Exchange has to ride on ZSE to make economic sense. Then as it grows, you just spin it off.
Interesting. Which means there's going to be a job opening soon. Can I apply or it's too early?
You just watch the press, yeah.
Interesting. So talking of kids, your own kids, are they stock trading geniuses who have made thousands of dollars in the market secretly, or are they not interested in the market?
So they are fairly young. So they're still students at university.
Okay, all right. So they're not like hungered down in the basement of your house trading stocks on ZSE. Okay, interesting. And not that you're about to retire, but when you eventually do, what would you want your legacy to be on the stock exchange? What would you want people to reflect and say, Justin did these things for the markets?
Yeah, I mean, the main reason why I came back, as I always said, was just to see if I can make a difference to a country where I was born and grew up. So I think if people can say, at least I did something that helped people, I think that's the main thing. That's all I've always wanted. Was just at least I made a difference.
And before you retire, I imagine most people take vacation days. When you take your vacation, what type of activities do you do around the country?
Yeah, so what I like most is visiting a new city. It's always one of the things that I like. I like visiting a new city. So if I'm in a city for the first time, it's just exciting to me. That's what I enjoy. New buildings, new people. That's what I do.
Have you been to Nyanga district where I come from?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm sure you can tell the audience what a magnificent district it is.
It's underrated.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that. We'll give you the medal of honor for the district for really marketing it. So who would you look to when you need advice?
So I mean, I have fantastic board of directors. So normally sometimes I have things chair and my vice chair are people that I talk to quite a bit. Even within government, I mean, I do talk quite a bit to the minister, to the honorable minister. So if I want something and I'm thinking of something, the honorable minister is a sounding board. And I also got even my regulator, the one who left, I used to go to him quite a bit. I've got a few. I used to go to him. There are a few friends of mine that are plugged in on things that are happening. Some of them are journalists. I also go to them as well. So for me, sometimes when I'm making a decision, I always go think of the wider implications. I've learned that whatever we do here has got wider implications. So you actually have to be careful. So I tend to ask a broad number of people from different places to say, look, I want to do that. Even listed companies. Before launching a new product, I'll talk to listed companies. I'll say to them, this is what I want to do. What do you think? So I try to, as much as possible, talk to a lot of people. Okay. Broadly, it's one of the ways.
Interesting. So if you thought there was an up-and-coming interviewer like me who might want to interview the professor, you would reach out to him and tell him that, right?
I'll try.
Interesting. So other stock markets like the Nasdaq, they're actually listed public companies that trade and people can buy shares in it, and people can enjoy the exchange itself as investors. Are there any plans to list the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange or the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange anytime soon?
So the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange is, yes, we have plans to do that. It's something that, all things equal, something that we'll do this year.
Okay.
So it's something that we're looking at. Yes.
Interesting. Well, that's just breaking news for an IPO coming soon.
This one we've said public.
Oh, you have said public. Interesting. What's the criteria for being invited to the ceremony of the bell? I want to be there.
If you're around, definitely we'll send you an invite.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
All right.
So if the president calls you one day and he says, what can I do to Justin to make your job easier? Is there any policy that you think I should revise? What do you think you would urge him to do to make your job easier?
So I mean, there's some obvious ones that some countries have done, like offer incentives for people to list. So you can offer tax incentives and everything for people to list. But I think the big one for us is that I think it would be nice to have some of the big state-owned enterprises to list. We think it will help quite a lot. Right. So I think, there are things that when they list, they bring a lot of excitement. Right. These are big names that everyone knows. And if you look at the Kenyan stock market, when it did a lot of listings for public sector listings, it grew quite a bit. I mean, I even remember in New Zealand as well, when I was there, there was a lot of state-owned enterprises that are listed, and there was a big boom to the stock market.
Right.
So it's one of the things that I would say, look, if you could find a way of privatizing some of the state-owned enterprises and list them, it would revitalize because the government has some of the biggest companies that are not listed.
Right.
Yes, there are some private companies that are not listed, but the biggest ones are government-owned.
Okay.
And it's actually creative, right? I mean, people don't understand. You can list an airport. So you could list the Global Mugabe International Airport.
And
it can be done. Yes, it can be done.
Wow, interesting.
Yes, it can be done. So these are some things that the government has got a lot of assets that can be listed. I think it's a matter of explaining how they can be done and become a government. And they don't have to lose control. They can still have control of it.
Right.
But it just helps if they do that. But I think it will take time for the government to get there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you can write a white paper on this and just drop it in type of building.
I think, as I said, first we want to be relevant, and when the government believes that we can help them, then I think it's easier to do this conversation.
Okay.
But the government is where, if this exchange is going to go 5-10 times, it's listing of government assets. So that's where the growth is.
Any books you're reading at the moment?
These days I'm tending to listen more to podcasts.
Okay.
Yes,
Any podcast you're listening to?
I tend to be, so the McKinsey has got a podcast. So I listen, there's a McKinsey podcast that I listen to. So I tend to like McKinsey. I've had podcasts, so I tend to listen to those podcasts. This type of podcast, yes.
Interesting. So we have been talking about the Nairobi Securities Exchange. You seem to admire them very much, but other than Nairobi, is there any other stock market you look to for inspiration and guidance in our continent?
Yeah. So I've always. They're always ahead of the things that they do. They're just ahead of us. That's why I buy them. Because some of the things that I'm thinking about, they do it before I do. That's why I buy. I also think that Botswana has done well. They really have. What's the word? For a small country,
yes,
they have a vibrant exchange. They have a very good exchange, and their CEO, I admire him. He's done great things. So Botswana, I admire what they've done.
And they have really big companies. I mean, Anglo is listed in Botswana, which, excluding South Africa, is the biggest company, I think, on the whole sub-Saharan Africa, and it's listed in Botswana.
Yeah, Botswana. So as I said, Botswana, I admire that. And also, they've managed to convince their government to raise their money. They raise all their debt through the exchange. So they've really grown that side as well. So Botswana definitely I admire. And FMDQ, the one in the Nigerian one. Okay. It's a relatively new exchange that has done tremendously well. FMDQ I also admire.
Nigerians are great people there.
yes, so FMDQ I admire. I think those are the three that I really admire.
Alright. Is there anything in the works for sort of a regional exchange like Southern African Stock Exchange, something with much harmonized rules that can bring capital not just to individual countries but to the region? You have spoken how these boundaries are artificial and you want them broken, at least in the financial world. So
it's ideal, but I still feel that people are still too nationalistic on the exchanges at the moment.
Right.
So I'm not seeing it at the moment. So what has happened, to be fair, is that there's been synchronization in terms of the rules of the exchanges. So if you look at the rules of the exchanges in the SADC area, they are similar.
All right.
So that has been done so that if you want to list on one exchange from the other, you can understand them. So at least there's someone, it will work very closely together. But I think merging into one exchange is not just the exchanges themselves. To go beyond the exchanges, the national governments have to agree as well. Okay. And I don't know if the national government, and then also the issue of currencies. I don't think we're close. Currency plus national government interest.
Interesting.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's wrong.
Interesting. So you have had a very successful career with tangible growth stories in the private sector. If the president were to call you and say, I really admire what you have done in the private sector, and I think, we want more hands to be, to help us grow the public purse. Whether you are going to take Mr. Guamatanda's job or Professor's job, would you be open to going to the public sector, or you're very comfortable in the private sector at the moment?
First and foremost, that is the prerogative of people that have done. I have never thought that way. I have never. For me, what I'm doing now for me is public.
You have never dreamed yourself being driven to the office with a motorcade or something? No.
For me, I think this is the most public I ever thought I would do. Yeah, the job turned out to be more public. Otherwise, I'm more a private sector person.
Okay, interesting. So you have on occasion stated that the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange needs to put itself out there, even in this interview. Is there something that's stopping you from going all this blitz? We see, I think, currently we have this thing where most companies are engaging what are now called influencers, social media people who can talk about their experience. Is there a way you can get Japreza to buy shares and share his story, or there are ethical rules that prevent you from hiring influencers to market the exchange?
Okay. Yeah. So we are very careful. An exchange is not a one-way street.
Right.
In exchange, you don't just make money; you lose money.
Investment involves risk, and past performance is not indicative of future.
Yes. So we are very careful that we don't sell this hype. That's number. Number two is also buying shares. Also, there's an element of training that's required. You have to understand what you're doing. That's why you have to take your time. You have to teach people and everything. So you can't have an influencer doing it. It won't work.
It won't.
And also there's rules around advertising in the capital markets.
Right.
So you can't just go. And also it's not just us on the capital markets. You got brokers. So there's a. It's not just us who should be advertising or should be going out there.
Okay.
It's other people as well going out there. The people that are more public facing are not us. It's the brokers.
Okay.
The brokers are the ones that should be pushing more for people to buy shares. Our job is to do like an umbrella for them.
Okay.
That's why if you want to list on the exchange, at the end of the day, I tell you to go to see a broker.
Okay.
Our broker members are the ones that are more public facing.
Okay.
We provide cover for them. We teach people what shares are, what everything is. But what share to buy is the broker.
Okay.
So we never tell you what share to buy. We tell you, okay, these are the shares, this is why I'm listing. So buying shares makes sense. This is how we do it. But what to buy is never us.
All right.
It's the brokers.
Are there any plans for the government to start listing Zimbabwean dollar-denominated bonds on the exchange and sort of create a yield curve for the country?
So there was a time when it's all, as I said, it's all to do with stability. When you are stable, because the interest rates at the moment are too high, 60% is too high. So what you want your interest rates to really come down.
Right.
Then it starts making sense. Your interest is coming down, your inflation is coming down, your exchange is stable. When you got those conditions, yeah, it makes sense. Then you can do a 2-3 year paper. At the moment, you struggle to attract people on a long tenure paper. That's the problem.
All right.
Yes.
Talking of sort of listing in different countries, let's just say that I'm doing business in Zambia, in Malawi, and Zimbabwe. Of course, there's a history that these countries were once under a federation, so they have sort of similar characteristics. Why should I list my business on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and not on the Lusaka or on the Malawi Stock Exchange?
Okay. So we believe we're a bigger exchange. We believe we're more sophisticated exchange.
Right.
So we with our brokers and everything, we're much more sophisticated. So I think that's the thing that we can say. We can do a better job.
With due respect to our counterparts in Malawi and Zambia.
They are good, but I think it's just a matter of our history is longer. So it's just a more sophisticated market.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So the biggest companies on the exchange include Econet and Delta, among others. Do you often have to call Mr. Bgoni or Mr. Valela to sort of convince them to stay public, or they are pretty satisfied customers and you don't have to talk to them often?
No, I talk to them often because they are my, for lack of a better word, my main customers.
Okay.
So I talk to them often.
Right.
I go around and we talk, and they tell me what they worried about, what their concerns are, and I tell them what I'm thinking, what we have to do. So we talk very often. So I will talk to them maybe 3-4 times a year. So I talk to them often. So it's not a matter of, if they are unhappy about something, I tend to know about it.
Okay.
So they will tell me to say, look, this does not work and everything. So look, I think on average, I think they benefited from listing. One of the big benefits of listing for most of these companies is that you compensate your employees through share options.
Right.
And it's something that really has value. And the company doesn't necessarily have to fork out money. And you can keep people for longer. Because you can say, these shares come after 5 years. So you really can keep your high quality stuff.
What are some of the biggest challenges that the exchange is facing right now?
So one of the biggest challenges that we're facing, which I'm struggling with, is the issue of financial information. So if you look at the financial information according to accounting standards, they have to produce hyperinflated numbers. So hyperinflated numbers are required by the auditors for them to audit, and the IS says that the international standard says that when the hyperinflation is there, those are your main numbers. The truth of the matter is that no one uses that hyperinflated numbers.
Right.
So analysts don't use the hyperinflated numbers. They use historical numbers. Management and the board don't use the numbers. So no one is really using these numbers. So you're producing numbers that no one really uses. So that's not good, because then the public don't have information really to make decisions. You are producing numbers that people don't care about. So that's a problem. And so that has led to a lot of friction between listed companies and the auditors. So that's something that we're really grappling with. I think that is something that is unique to Zimbabwe, and it's a challenge. And this led to some listed companies' audit opinions, so adverse audit opinions. So this does not help. It's not that the company is doing anything wrong. The company is not doing anything wrong. All to do with the environment in terms, and a lot of that has to do with the currency at the moment. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have as an exchange. How do we make sure that people are getting numbers that make sense to them, that they can use? So that's it. So that's one thing that you ask listed companies. They always say, these numbers don't make sense. These numbers don't make sense, and that's not good.
And I imagine there's a board for auditors. Do you engage them?
We engage
try
them,
and meet them halfway or something?
Yeah. So we're always engaging.
Accounting rules are still, and you can do anything about it.
We cannot do anything. But we explain to them that this is the challenge. This is what people are doing. But that's one of the biggest challenges that is probably unique to Zimbabwe. That we really struggling.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. So you are a chartered accountant yourself, and by sort of pushing back on some of these rules, are you not going to be champed out, or you're just doing?
I think they're happy that at least I understand them. I understand both sides. I understand why, because when you're a chartered accountant, you are bound by these standards. That's what you need to do. So you have to stick to your principles and say you have to meet the standards. And at the same time, you know what? I'm on the other side as well. I can see that what's being produced is not being used. Okay. And that's that doesn't make sense. It's a waste of resources.
Right.
Producing numbers that no one uses.
Okay.
It's a waste of resources.
Interesting. So there are many myths around investing in the market. And is there a preferable time for me to get the best prices? Do I have to put in my orders early in the morning, during the day if I have ZSE direct? Or I'm pretty much satisfied in getting my orders filled at any time of the day that I get?
And a lot of these things are automated. So you say I want to buy a 1265 and it matches. Right. There is no. I tend not to be in the market, so I create the platform. I haven't heard that there's a good time and a bad time. I might be. There are slow days. Monday tends to be slow. Historically, if you look at our trades, Monday tends to be slow, and it picks up during the week. I think that's the only time trend that I've seen. Monday is slow, then and obviously January is slow, and so there are some months and some days that are slow. But besides that, I haven't did anything.
Okay, interesting. And by saying you tend not to be in the market, I assume as the ultimate insider, you don't even own one share of stock. Can you do that? No, you can't. Even if you buy it 30 days before and disclose it in the public newspapers,
it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
And none of the people who work here can own shares, or it's just you.
None of the people can own shares.
Well, then maybe you can keep that Victoria Stock Exchange. I might not be interested in it after. So we have touched on ETFs briefly, and there are now 2 ETFs on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, if I'm not mistaken. Can you explain to the audience why you think ETFs are better, worse, or the same as individual equities? And you seem to be pro ETFs compared to individual securities for novice investors.
So you would understand. The important thing is diversification is key.
Right.
To be shown, you have to diversify. So that's one thing that I want people to do. ETFs helps in terms of diversification, but also it's important because you do not have to monitor your shares.
Right.
So what I find with people is people don't monitor their portfolio.
Right.
That's the problem. They buy shares and they forget about it. So they wake up later on, they say, this share is not done well and everything. So ETF automatically does that for you. So if it's a passive, like top 10, it's top 10, it means that every time you go top 10. Right. You don't have to monitor, you go top 10 every time.
Some investment professionals monitoring you.
Monitoring, yes. That's what I mean. And you don't have to, picking stock is, even the professionals get it wrong. Right. You don't know. If you're good at picking stock, you get paid a lot of money.
Yes, a lot.
Yes. That's why ETFs are popular. ETFs, because you don't have to,
Because history has proved that the so-called professionals themselves are not even better than monkeys at picking stocks.
Okay. That's why I'm pro ETF. It just helps. Especially people that we're trying to bring into the market who are really less sophisticated. My encouragement to them would be just buy an ETF.
Buy an ETF. Okay. Interesting. You talk about the fact that people buy and forget. This is something that other very glorified investors like Warren Buffett has urged people to do. But I imagine there is a little bit of a conflict here. You actually make money when we trade frequently because you get a small cut. Other than when we trade frequently, how else do you make money as a business?
I mean, there are two types of investors, right? There are people who are sophisticated.
Right.
The sophisticated one, you don't have to tell them to keep. They are in and out.
Right.
They are in and out. Right?
Or their algorithms are in and out.
They are in and out. So I don't have to worry about that. And that's your 80%, right? That's your big people that do most of the trades.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that one. I'm more worried about what I'm talking about is more the financial inclusion.
Right.
The people that are coming in. But in terms of making money, obviously, like any other exchange, in company that is listed, you charge a listing fee. If they do transactions, you charge a transaction fee. You sell your market data. On top of that, then invest the trading level. So it's a combination of things that how you make money.
Interesting. So if you sell market data to me, do I have to sign a form that I can resell it to someone else, or I can do whatever I want?
There are different types of licenses.
Okay.
If you want to resell, then it's a different license from the one where you just get it and use it for yourself. So it's a different license.
All right, interesting. So can you explain how Victoria Falls as a city, I think, being declared a special economic zone, how does that benefit the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange? You seem to have been very happy about that news.
Okay, so it's not just a special economic zone, it's an offshore center. Okay. So they are working towards Victoria Falls being like Mauritius, Dubai and everything, where there's a free movement of money. So we believe that if the exchange is part of a place where there's a free movement of money with minimal exchange control, it will be easier for investors to come in. That's why we're excited about it. Because one of the things that people worry about is how do the money move in and out. So if in a place where there's a free movement of money, we're bound to attract more capital. So it means, for example, you want to invest from the UK, from the US. You can come in and out easily. You don't have to apply and everything. It's just because it's an offshore center.
Interesting. How did Victoria Falls as a city get this honor? I mean, I would have wanted it to be the Nyanga Stock Exchange, but how is there any reason? What's special about Big Falls about it being the special economic zone?
I will tell you my understanding.
Okay.
So I might be wrong on this one. So I'll tell you my understanding. Right. So I think the first part is I think globally you tend to combine tourism and financial sector. So they come in to do business and they stay for pleasure.
Right.
So Big Falls is good at it. Then the second thing I think is the branding. Big Falls is a good brand. It's well known around the world. Right.
With all respect to the other district. It's okay.
Yes. And my understanding is that His Excellency the President also has an affinity to Victoria Falls.
Victoria Falls.
It's surprising me. Okay. My understanding is that when he got released, first time when he was in prison, he almost got executed.
When he was bombing the trains.
When he got released, on the
border.
On the Victoria Falls bridge.
Okay, that same border where Robert Mugabe and Ian Smith were sitting on different sides, they're saying, let's make an agreement. You stay on the Zimbabwean side.
My understanding is that's where he got. So he has got an affinity for Big Falls. So that's one of the reasons. But I think the big one really is that worldwide you tend to combine tourism and the financial sector. So it makes it all sense. Because people if I'm going to a place where I want to go to a place where I like visiting. Right, you want to
New York, Dubai, London, those are financial and tourist destinations.
So you combine the two. I think that's the main one.
Okay, all right. Interesting. So we have talked about liquidity. You're really big on saying people can keep their money in the exchange and it can be liquid at any time when they want to have it. In 2008, I was in grade 7. I don't remember a lot of things. At least I didn't know about the markets then. But was there a way in which, after this terrible hyperinflationary period, was there a way in which people managed to recoup their wealth that could not be found in other sectors of the economy? And imagine if you owned Econet pre-2008, when we dollarized, you still owned Econet and you sort of preserved your wealth that way. Was there a way in which people managed to benefit by being...
and I think that was the same thing. The same aspect is people who were indirectly invested in the stock market tended to lose money.
Right.
The people that directly owned the stock didn't lose.
Right.
I mean, there was a time when they could access it, and it took a time for it to rebound to the proper levels, but it rebounded.
But their names were still on the share
registers. And the companies, fortunately, remained, and they performed well. And
these people are rich now. One of them is a billionaire called Stripe. Right. Interesting, but I think some people were burnt out. Those were under unit trusts. Yes. Whose fault was this? Was this lax regulation from the Securities and Exchange Commission? Not that you want to blame your regulator.
Unfortunately, it was before my time. So that time I was out of the country. So I am not very much aware of it. But unfortunately, people got burnt out. Yeah.
Are there measures in place though to make sure that people don't get burnt out in products like unit trust before, or according to your sort of assessment, you think people should just stick to ETFs because that's what?
No, I don't want to say unit trust are bad. Right? I don't want to go that. But I hope that it's being sorted out. That if things go wrong, the unit trust doesn't. Because I never understood why. Because you also expect that unit trust to have underlying assets as well.
Right.
But we do not. A lot of them though had money market exposure. To be fair.
Right.
So a lot of you,
the money market
disappeared. They lost money.
Okay.
To be fair.
All right. Interesting. And I've always gotten this weird question. People don't actually know how to buy stocks. We've talked about stockbrokers sort of like in passing, but if I want to buy a share of stock of Tanganda, which recently came on the market, do I just DM you on Twitter? Just in sort of in brief, how do I go about it to be able to say I now own one share of Econ?
So there's two ways that you do it. So the first one is when we created platforms. So if on ZSE Direct, you can register on ZSE Direct. So it's on the internet. ZSE Direct, right. You go in there and you fill in the forms, the KYC that we're talking about. Once you're done and you deposit your money, you can buy Tanada. Right. It's easy. The second one is you call a broker. So you got a list of our brokers and you say to them, look, the website, and you say, look, I want to open an account and I want to buy Tanada. So they will send you the forms and say, fill in the forms, and they say deposit your money, you deposit your money, and they buy Tanada. Okay. So there are two ways to do it. So we made it easier by doing the direct online, but you can just go on ZSE Direct.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. This whole ZSE Direct thing, is ZSE Direct a competing broker, or is it just a product for financial inclusion? Because I imagine if I am a broker called Maro Brokers and you are the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and you get to tweet that there is ZSE Direct, people might think that ZSE Direct is more trustworthy than Maro Brokers. How are brokers feeling about you starting your own thing called ZSE Direct?
So under law in Zimbabwe, you have to use a broker.
Okay.
So on ZSE Direct, you still have to select a broker.
Right.
Yeah, it's not important, but most of it is automated. So your broker tends to be involved in the start. But on the KYC, so the broker checks the KYC and you enrolled as a customer. Then afterwards, everything gets automated.
Okay.
So you are determining the price and everything. But under the law in Zimbabwe, your broker you still have to trade through a broker.
Okay.
Because the broker is the collecting agent for the taxes.
Okay.
So for example, when you trade the taxes that you pay, so your broker has to be the collecting agent.
Taxes, which we all hate.
We all hate. But so that's the thing. Your broker is involved. So for the brokers, if I'm a broker, Maro Brokers, I'm happy because the stock market has created a platform for me to make money.
To make more money. Okay, interesting. So, as the broker who is working on the transaction, do I get to keep all the commission, or now I have to split with you guys when a transaction is routed through ZSE Direct?
A little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit, which means you're also benefiting.
No, but you have to pay for the platform.
Okay.
So it's mainly we remember for us, it's just not about making there's more to it than just making money.
Okay.
There's financial inclusion, there's increasing liquidity. Remember, we still make money on the pool, we still have a percentage anyway when you have a trade. So the only thing that we are sharing is the little bit of the broadcast for the administration and infrastructure.
Okay. And there is no way ZSE Direct can eventually become an independent broker of its own?
No.
Okay. No, it's not possible.
No, that's not
even
possible.
After you list and I start a hostile takeover and I force you and the board to do something, no, you can't do it.
You can't do it. And it's a serious conflict.
Okay.
Remember, the brokers we supervise the brokers
to
make sure that they're keeping them. No, there's no chance now.
Okay.
No,
okay. Well,
but the broker could come and buy ZSE Direct and become the platform. That's different.
Okay, but you're not going to sell ZSE Direct anytime soon.
No, you're not. I'm trying to show the extreme of what can happen.
The extreme of what can happen. And as I understand it, brokers currently own the exchange, and if the exchange is to be eventually listed, they're the ones who are going to make a couple of thousands or millions of dollars. So they are ready to let go of their baby they have held so long.
No, they've been the ones pushing, not pushing, but they've been encouraging for us to list.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been gradual list. Yeah.
Alright.
And the government has got shareholdings of 32%. So the brokers plus the government. But I think we always say that the exchange belongs to the people. So we want to have more shareholders. That's what we believe.
Any advice for the young people in the country?
As early as possible, start creating a stock portfolio.
Start creating a stock portfolio.
Yes, you have to start creating a stock portfolio. Yes.
And buy stocks for your girlfriends. I mean, there was Valentine for your spouses.
Let me not get into that.
It might be a better present to say, boyfriend, I brought you 200 shares of Equities instead of.
With all due respect, his relationship advice is not
it's not your area of concern. But
it's not the area of my strength.
Okay. But you wouldn't really hate it if stocks for Valentine's became the new thing in the economy. Right? It would show that people appreciate it.
But I don't know if the ladies would appreciate it. Maybe they would prefer roses and chocolate.
They'll probably sell everything on the 15th and buy roses and chocolates, which is good because by the 15th, the roses and chocolates would have gone down in price, which is still a bargain if you look at it otherwise.
That's all.
All right, well, sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.